My mother looked me dead in the eye over dinner and handed me a venue invoice for $15,000, saying, "You're paying for your sister's wedding, family sacrifices for family." When I flat out refused, she smiled, reached into my purse while I was in the bathroom, stole my emergency credit card, and attempted to drain my savings account that exact night. But instead of crying, I actually couldn't stop laughing. Why? Because my mother had no idea who that card actually belonged to, or what kind of legal trap she had just walked into. The very next morning, my phone rang. It was my sister, crying and completely panicking. Follow my story until the end to see how one greedy decision exposed a family secret, and comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. The funeral flowers were still fresh when my mother decided to set her sights on my hard-earned savings. My name is Violet. I'm 34 years old, and for as long as I can remember, my family had a very strict, unspoken hierarchy. At the top sat my 24-year-old sister Chloe, the golden child who could do no wrong. At the bottom was me, the dependable, hard-working elder daughter who was expected to quietly fix every mess everyone else made. When my mother, Brenda, invited me over for an intimate family dinner on a rainy Tuesday evening, I actually thought she wanted to connect. Instead, the moment I sat down at her dining table, she didn't even ask how my job was going. She simply slid a thick, glossy paper across the table toward me. It was a venue reservation deposit for an ultra-luxury country club. The bottom line was bolded in red, $15,000. Brenda folded her arms, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "Chloe's dream wedding is coming up, and this deposit is due by tomorrow morning. You're paying for it. Family sacrifices for family, Violet." I stared at the invoice, then at my mother's completely deadpan expression. Chloe was marrying her boyfriend after dating for 6 months. Neither of them had steady jobs, and yet they were planning a $60,000 royal spectacle. Brenda expected me to bankroll the entire illusion just so she could show off to her friends. The sheer audacity left me momentarily speechless, but as I looked at that $15,000 figure, something inside me finally snapped. I took a slow, deep breath, set the invoice back down on the polished mahogany table, and looked directly at my mother. "I'm not paying for this, Mom," I said, keeping my voice completely level. Chloe and her fiancé decided to book a luxury country club on a fast food budget. That is their responsibility, not mine. Brenda's face instantly twisted in fury. The polite maternal facade vanished, replaced by the familiar sharp tongue I'd endured my entire life. "How can you be so cold?" she spat, slamming her hand down onto the table. "You make good money. You don't have children. Your sister deserves a magical day, and you're sitting here hoarding your cash out of pure spite. You've always been jealous of Chloe." "This isn't jealousy, Mom. It's common sense," I replied, standing up from my chair. "I've worked 80 hours a week for years to build my financial security. I am not throwing away $15,000 of my hard-earned money just so Chloe can pretend to be royalty for 6 hours. Brenda glared at me, her chest heaving. "If you walk out that door without paying this deposit, don't bother coming back. You are ruining your sister's happiness." "Then I guess I'll see myself out," I said quietly. Before leaving, I excused myself to use the hallway restroom to wash my hands and collect my thoughts. I left my handbag sitting on the entryway table for less than 3 minutes. When I walked back out, Brenda was standing in the kitchen with her back to me, suspiciously quiet. I picked up my purse, offered a final, calm goodbye that she completely ignored, and walked out into the cool, rainy night, completely unaware that while I was in the bathroom, my mother had quietly unzipped my bag and helped herself inside. I got home around 9 o'clock that evening, poured myself a glass of water, and tried to shake off the lingering stress of the dinner. I went straight to bed, assuming the drama was over for the night. I was dead wrong. At 1:15 a.m., my phone began vibrating frantically on my nightstand. Buzz after buzz cut through the dark room. Blinking away sleep, I reached for the phone, expecting an emergency. Instead, my screen was flooded with urgent fraud alerts from my financial institution. Alert: transaction of $15,000 attempted at Grandview Country Club events. Status: declined/flagged for fraud. My heart did a quick leap, but then confusion set in. How could anyone try to charge my account? I bolted out of bed and rushed to the entryway to grab my purse. I unzipped the main compartment, reached into the interior pocket, and pulled out my wallet. My personal debit and primary credit cards were all neatly in place, but the back slot was completely empty. That was when the real panic, and then a wave of cold realization, hit me. The missing card wasn't a personal credit card. It was a high-tier corporate procurement card issued directly by my firm. Because I manage major office equipment purchases for an international corporate firm, I was entrusted with a company card that had a massive credit limit, but it came with extremely strict security protocols. Every single charge had to be pre-authorized with a specific purchase order number. Brenda had snuck into my bag, grabbed the sleek black card assuming it was my personal card, and immediately passed the numbers to the country club coordinator to pay the deposit. Because a $15,000 unauthorized transaction was attempted on a corporate procurement account after business hours, the firm's automated security system didn't just decline the charge, it instantly flagged the merchant account, locked the card, and generated an automatic fraud incident report for our legal department. Sitting on the edge of my bed in the dark, staring at the fraud notification, I didn't cry. I actually burst out laughing. My mother had just committed corporate credit card fraud to pay for my sister's wedding, and she had no idea the massive legal trap she had just walked into. The next morning at 7:30 a.m., my phone rang again. The caller ID showed Chloe's name. I picked it up, and before I could even say hello, my sister's hysterical sobbing echoed through the speaker. She was breathing so fast she could barely form coherent words. "Violet! Oh my God! Violet! You have to help me!" she shrieked, her voice cracking with pure panic. "Everything is ruined. The venue canceled my date. They canceled the whole wedding." I sat up in bed, keeping my voice completely calm. "Chloe, slow down. What are you talking about? Why did the venue cancel?" "I don't know," she wailed. "The wedding coordinator called me 20 minutes ago. She said someone tried to process a $15,000 deposit late last night, using a stolen corporate credit card. She said their automated payment system flagged it as corporate fraud, and now the general manager has blacklisted us. They think we're trying to scam them." Chloe took a ragged breath and choked out. "Mom told me last night that she handled the deposit. She texted me at midnight saying, 'The venue is secured, don't worry about Violet.'" "What did Mom do, Violet? Where did she get that card?" The pieces instantly fell together for Chloe. The realization hit her like a bucket of ice water. "Mom stole a card from your bag, didn't she?" Chloe whispered, her voice suddenly trembling with a mix of terror and utter humiliation. "She thought she could just swipe your card and you'd be forced to pay it back. Now the venue threatened to report our family to the police for fraud. They gave us 2 hours to explain what happened before they file a formal report." I leaned back against my pillows, listening to my golden child sister unravel completely on the other end of the line, completely terrified of the mess our mother had created. 10 minutes after hanging up with Chloe, my mother's name flashed across my phone screen. I answered, and Brenda immediately started screaming at the top of her lungs. "Violet, what did you do to my transaction?" The venue coordinator called me raving mad, saying the payment was flagged for fraud. "You need to call your bank right now, tell them it was an administrative mistake, and unfreeze those funds." "Mom, stop yelling," I said, my voice cold. "First of all, you stole from my purse while I was in the restroom. Second, you didn't steal my personal card. You stole my company procurement card." The silence on the line was instant and deafening. "Company card?" Brenda stammered, her high-pitched aggression suddenly dissolving into genuine fear. "Yes," I continued calmly. "That card is issued by my international firm exclusively for major business equipment procurement. You attempted an unauthorized $15,000 transaction after hours. The firm's automated security protocols immediately flagged it as federal corporate credit card fraud." Brenda let out a terrified gasp. "Violet, you have to fix this. Tell them I had permission. Tell them you gave it to me. I can't go to jail. I am not going to lie to a corporate legal team and lose my job or go to prison as your accomplice," I replied firmly. "You have two choices right now, Mom. Option 1. You drive to my apartment immediately, hand back my physical corporate card, and personally call the venue manager to admit you attempted to use a corporate card without my knowledge. Option 2. I let my company's legal department file a formal police report for felony theft and credit card fraud by 12 o'clock today. Choose wisely." 30 minutes later, Brenda arrived at my apartment, looking smaller and paler than I had ever seen her. Without a word, she handed over my corporate card with trembling hands. Her arrogance was completely gone, replaced by the crushing weight of her own foolishness. While sitting at my kitchen table, Brenda was forced to put the venue coordinator on speakerphone. With tears streaming down her face, she confessed that she had taken her daughter's corporate card without authorization and attempted to process the deposit on her own. The venue manager made it explicitly clear that due to the severe security breach, Chloe was permanently banned from booking their facilities. When Chloe found out, the final illusion broke. She realized that her mother's obsessive desire to show off had nearly destroyed her reputation and almost sent our family to prison. For the first time in her life, Chloe stood up to Brenda. She completely stripped our mother of all wedding planning privileges and cut off her access to any event decisions. Instead of chasing an absurd $60,000 dream wedding to appease our mother's ego, Chloe and her fiancé made a realistic choice. They canceled the lavish country club plans, apologized to their guests, and opted for an intimate, elegant ceremony in a local botanical garden that stayed well within their actual savings. Brenda was forced to sit quietly in the back row during the ceremony, sidelined and stripped of the control she had abused for decades. Her attempts to manipulate her daughters had backfired spectacularly, forcing her to confront the reality that her toxic behavior had finally cost her all authority over our lives. In the months following the wedding, a surprising peace settled over my life. With firm boundaries established, the toxic dynamic that had defined my family for decades completely collapsed. Chloe and I actually grew closer than we'd ever been. Stripped of Brenda's toxic influence, my sister matured quickly, realizing that financial independence and honesty were far more valuable than living up to our mother's superficial expectations. Brenda, she was forced to learn a lesson she should have learned decades ago. Actions have real consequences, and her daughters were no longer available to be manipulated or exploited for her personal gain. She lives quietly now, knowing that if she ever crosses the line again, she will be cut off completely. Setting that boundary wasn't easy, and standing up to my mother felt terrifying at first. But protecting my career, my financial security, and my self-respect was the best decision I ever made. Thanks for watching and subscribe the channel.